Commander Veltar stood on the bridge of his massive warship, looking at the small blue planet on his screen. Earth was just another target in a long list of worlds the Nexari had conquered. His gray skin showed the scars of many battles, and his 4 arms moved quickly across the control panels. "Sir, we have been watching their signals for 3 months now," said his aide Mordin, a younger Nexari with bright purple eyes. "These humans are very basic. They only learned to fly in space a few decades ago." Veltar nodded slowly. The Nexari had been traveling between stars for over 2,000 years. They had taken control of 47 different worlds, and each time it had been easy. Most species gave up after seeing the size of their fleet. "What weapons do they have?" Veltar asked. "Chemical explosives mostly. Some nuclear weapons but not many. Their biggest ships can barely leave their planet's atmosphere," Mordin replied, reading from his tablet. "Our scouts say they will surrender quickly once we show our power." On Earth, Defense Minister Jinho sat in a deep underground bunker beneath Seoul. The walls were covered with screens showing radar signals and satellite images. Red dots filled the displays, each one representing an alien ship. "How many are there?" Jinho asked Colonel Sujin, who stood next to him studying the data. "At least 50 large ships, sir. Maybe more hiding behind their moon," she answered. "They appeared 3 days ago. No warning, no attempt to communicate." Jinho had been preparing for this possibility his entire career. Every nation on Earth had secret plans for alien contact, but no one had expected it to start with an attack. The first alien strike had destroyed a space station and several satellites. "Have they tried to talk to us at all?" Jinho asked. "No, sir. They just started shooting," Sujin replied. Above Earth's atmosphere, Veltar watched his fleet move into attack positions. The humans had built several space stations and had hundreds of satellites. It would be simple to destroy them and show the planet that resistance was pointless. "Begin the first phase," Veltar commanded. "Destroy their space technology. But do not harm the planet itself. We need the resources." Blue energy beams shot out from the Nexari ships. Human satellites exploded in bright flashes. The International Space Station tried to move away, but it was too slow. Within minutes, humanity had lost most of their ability to see what was happening in space. Major Taemin was stationed at an air base outside Seoul when the attack began. He watched on his radar as unknown objects moved across the sky. Then his radio crackled with emergency messages from around the world. "All stations, this is command. We are under attack by unknown forces. All military units, prepare for defensive operations." Taemin had trained for many different types of war, but never this. He looked up at the sky and saw strange lights moving between the clouds. The alien ships were beautiful in a frightening way, smooth and silver like giant fish swimming through the air. "Sir, what are our orders?" asked Lieutenant Minho, a young pilot who looked scared. "We follow the plan," Taemin said, though he was not sure any plan could work against technology so advanced. The first real battle happened over the Pacific Ocean. Human fighter jets rose to meet a group of alien scouts. The pilots were brave, but their missiles could not get through the alien shields. The energy weapons on the alien ships could destroy a jet with one shot. Captain Hygiene commanded a naval ship that was trying to rescue the pilots who had been shot down. She watched through binoculars as alien aircraft moved overhead like metal birds. "They are not trying to kill everyone," she told her crew. "Look how they shoot. They hit military targets, but they avoid cities." This was strange. Most attacks she had studied in military school were meant to break the enemy's spirit by hurting civilians. But these aliens seemed to want to keep humans alive. Back on the Nexari flagship, Veltar studied reports from the first day of fighting. The humans had lost badly as expected. But something bothered him about their response. "Sir, the human military units are talking to each other in ways we did not expect," reported Intelligence Officer Kivrin. "They have backup communication systems we did not know about." "What kind of systems?" Veltar asked. "Underground cables, short-range radio networks, even coded messages sent through civilian internet systems. When we destroyed their satellites, they switched to other methods very quickly." Veltar thought about this. Most species panicked when their main communication was cut off. But these humans seemed to have planned for that possibility. "And their fighting tactics?" he asked. "Basic but organized. They retreat when they should retreat. They attack when they have advantages. It is like they have done this before," Kivrin said. "Done what before?" "They have never fought a space war." "No, sir. But they seem to understand war itself very well." On Earth, Jinho met with military leaders from around the world through secure video links. The aliens had taken control of the space around Earth, but they had not landed yet. "They want us to surrender," said General Martinez from the American base in Colorado. "But they are waiting for something. Maybe they think we will give up without a real fight," suggested Colonel Kim from the Japanese Defense Force. Jinho looked at the faces on his screen. These were people who had studied war their entire lives. They knew that the first battle was never the last battle. "Then we will show them that humans do not give up easily," Jinho said. "Activate all secondary protocols. If they want this planet, they will have to work for it." 2 weeks had passed since the first alien attacks. Admiral Veltar felt confident as he reviewed the daily reports. His fleet controlled all space around Earth. Human resistance was scattered and weak. Soon the planet would surrender. "Sir, we have destroyed 60% of their military aircraft and half of their naval ships," reported Mordin. "Their armies are hiding in mountains and underground." Veltar smiled, showing his sharp teeth. "Exactly as predicted. Send only 20 ships to begin ground operations. The rest can wait in orbit." He had conquered planets with much larger militaries using the same strategy. Show overwhelming power, destroy their best weapons, then land with a small force to accept surrender. It had worked 47 times before. Major Taemin crouched behind the ruins of what used to be a shopping center in Busan. The alien bombardment had been precise, hitting only military targets, but the city was still mostly empty. Civilians had moved to underground shelters or fled to the countryside. "Command, this is Tiger Team," he whispered into his radio. "I can see 3 alien dropships landing near the harbor." The voice that answered was Captain Hygiene, calling from her position in the mountains outside the city. "Tiger Team, we count the same. Looks like about 30 aliens per ship." Taemin watched through binoculars as strange figures walked out of the landed ships. The aliens were tall and moved carefully, like they expected no real fight. They carried energy weapons but did not seem worried about attack. "Only 90 soldiers for an entire city?" whispered Sergeant Boram, who was lying next to him. "They really think we will just give up." "Let them think that," Taemin replied. "All teams remember the plan. We are not trying to win today. We are trying to learn." This was the strategy that Minister Jinho had ordered. Do not fight the aliens directly. Instead, watch them. Learn how they moved, how they thought, how they made mistakes. Every piece of information would be useful later. High above the Earth, Veltar watched the landing operation on his screens. Everything was going perfectly. The humans were not even shooting at his troops. "Sir, should we send more soldiers?" asked Communications Officer Teflin. "No need," Veltar replied. "Look how quiet it is down there. They know they cannot win." But in the mountains around Busan, Captain Hygiene was coordinating something the aliens could not see. Hidden in caves and old mining tunnels, human soldiers were moving through networks of passages that had been prepared years ago. "Team 7 moved to position Alpha," she spoke into her radio. "Team 3, you are clear to advance to the warehouse district." The humans had learned these tactics from studying their own history. During the Korean War, soldiers had used tunnel systems to move without being seen. During World War II, resistance fighters had hidden in sewers and basements. Now they used the same ideas against alien invaders. Lieutenant Nari was deep underground in a communication center that the aliens did not know existed. She monitored alien radio signals, trying to understand their language with help from computer programs. "Captain, I am getting something interesting," she reported to Hygiene. "The aliens are talking about how easy this is. They think we are already beaten." "Good," Hygiene replied. "Let them keep thinking that." Above ground, the Nexari soldiers moved through the empty streets of Busan. Commander Zoreke, who was leading the ground force, felt disappointed. He had hoped for at least some fighting to make the conquest more interesting. "Sir, we have searched 12 buildings," reported one of his soldiers. "No humans found. They must have all run away." Zoreke nodded. "The same as always. These primitive species never have the courage to face us directly." But the humans had not run away. They were watching from hidden positions, counting the aliens, studying their equipment, learning their patrol patterns. Sergeant Boram used a small camera to record how the alien weapons worked. Lieutenant Junicio drew maps of how they moved through the streets. "They always travel in groups of 3, Taemin observed quietly. "And they always check the tall buildings first." This information was being sent through hidden cables to command centers around the world. In underground bunkers in America, Russia, China, and Europe, military planners studied every detail about the alien soldiers. The aliens had made a mistake that they did not realize. They thought that destroying satellites would cut off human communication. But humans had been preparing for war against each other for thousands of years. They knew that enemies would try to stop their communication, so they had built backup systems. Minister Jinho sat in his bunker, receiving reports from every continent. The aliens had landed in 12 major cities, always with small forces. They expected quick surrender, but they were not getting it. "Sir, they have taken control of the airports and harbors," reported Colonel Sujin. "But they are not trying to control the whole cities. Because they think we will surrender soon," Jinho replied. "How long can we keep this up without fighting back? Our food supplies will last 6 months underground. Our ammunition will last longer than that if we do not waste it." Jinho smiled grimly. The aliens thought they were fighting a primitive enemy. They did not understand that humans had spent centuries learning to fight other humans who were just as smart and just as well equipped as themselves. On the Nexari flagship, Admiral Veltar was starting to feel confused. Usually, conquered planets surrendered within days. But Earth had been quiet for 2 weeks, and his soldiers reported finding no government officials willing to negotiate. "Sir, maybe we should send more troops," suggested Mordin. "No," Veltar said, though he was less certain than before. "They are just taking time to accept reality. Soon their leaders will contact us." But deep underground, human leaders were not preparing to surrender. They were preparing for a kind of war that the aliens had never seen before. 3 weeks had passed, and Admiral Veltar was getting impatient. His ground forces controlled important buildings in 12 human cities, but no government leaders had come to surrender. The planet remained strangely quiet. "Sir, we found something that might help us understand these humans better," said Intelligence Officer Kivrin as she entered his command room. She carried a small device that glowed with stored data. "What is it?" Veltar asked, turning away from the star charts he had been studying. "A human military computer system. Our soldiers found it in a destroyed building in the city they call Washington. It contains thousands of files about human history and military tactics." Veltar looked at the device with interest. Understanding how primitive species thought had always helped him conquer them faster. "Show me what you found." Kivrin connected the device to the main viewing screen. Text and images filled the display, but everything was in human languages that looked like strange symbols and marks. "Our translation programs are working on it," she explained. "But we have already found some interesting things. Look at this." The screen showed what appeared to be a human battlefield. Thousands of humans in green uniforms were running across muddy ground while explosions burst around them. Smoke filled the air, and the sound of weapons fire was constant. "What are they doing?" Veltar asked, confused. "Fighting each other, sir. This appears to be from something called World War I. The humans were fighting other humans." Veltar stared at the screen. The scene showed incredible destruction, but what puzzled him most was the tactics. The humans moved in coordinated groups, used cover effectively, and showed no signs of panic even under heavy fire. "Are you certain they were fighting their own species?" he asked. "Yes, sir. The records are very clear. They call it a war between different human nations." More files opened automatically. The screen showed images of massive battles with thousands of humans on each side. Tanks rolled across fields while aircraft fought overhead. The weapons looked primitive by Nexari standards, but the scale of fighting was enormous. "How long did this war last?" Veltar asked quietly. "For years, sir. And this was just one of their major wars. There were many others." On Earth, Lieutenant Nari was monitoring alien communications from her underground post. The alien radio chatter had changed over the past day. Instead of confident reports, she heard confusion and many requests for more information. "Captain, something has the aliens worried," she reported to Hygiene through encrypted radio. "They are asking their command ship for instructions much more often than before." Captain Hygiene was hidden in a cave system near Seoul, coordinating with resistance cells worldwide. "Any idea what changed?" "They found some of our computer systems. I think they are looking at our military records." Hygiene smiled. She hoped they were looking at the right records. Human military history would teach the aliens things they probably did not want to learn. Back on the Nexari flagship, Kivrin had been working for hours to translate more human files. What she found made her feel sick to her stomach. "Admiral, you need to see this immediately," she called out. Veltar hurried to her station. The screen showed a map of Earth with different colors covering different areas. Numbers scrolled alongside the image, but Kivrin had translated them. "Sir, this is from their Second World War. It lasted 6 years. Over 70 million humans died. But look at these tactical reports." The files showed battle plans that were incredibly detailed. Humans had developed strategies for fighting in deserts, jungles, cities, and frozen landscapes. They had created weapons designed specifically to defeat other human weapons. Most disturbing of all, they had learned to fight enemies who thought exactly like they did. Admiral, Kivrin said quietly, they have been fighting wars like this for thousands of years. Not against primitive animals or simple creatures. Against other humans with the same intelligence, the same technology, the same ability to plan and adapt. Veltar felt cold fear creep up his spine. Every species the Nexari had conquered had been fighting simple wars against nature or against much weaker enemies. But these humans had been testing their military skills against opponents who were exactly as smart as they were. "Show me more," he commanded. The files revealed battle after battle, war after war. Medieval sieges where humans learned to defend cities for years. Naval battles where human fleets developed complex strategies to outmaneuver other human fleets. Modern conflicts where human soldiers used advanced technology to fight other humans who had the same advanced technology. "Sir, look at this section," Kivrin pointed to a file labeled Guerrilla Warfare. When human armies were too weak to fight directly, they learned to hide, strike quickly, and disappear. They call it asymmetric warfare. The screen showed humans fighting from tunnels, launching surprise attacks, and using their enemy's strength against them. Veltar realized with growing horror that this was exactly what the humans on Earth were doing right now. "They are not hiding because they are scared," he whispered. "They are studying us." Division leader Zoreke, who commanded the ground forces, received an urgent message to return to the flagship immediately. When he arrived, Admiral Veltar showed him the human war records. "Sir, what does this mean for our mission?" Zoreke asked after watching footage of human battles. "It means we have made a terrible mistake," Veltar replied. "We thought we were fighting a primitive species that had never seen real war. Instead, we are fighting a species that has spent thousands of years perfecting the art of warfare against opponents just as intelligent as themselves." Kivrin had found more files, including something called Special Forces and Military Strategy. The humans had developed ways to fight that the Nexari had never seen or imagined. "Sir, I recommend we contact the fleet immediately," Zoreke said. "If these records are accurate, we are facing an enemy unlike anything in our experience." Veltar nodded grimly. For the first time in his long military career, he was beginning to understand that he might lose a war. Admiral Veltar could not sleep. For 2 days he had been watching human war records with his senior officers. Each new file made the situation worse. The humans were not the primitive species his scouts had reported. "Sir, you must see this," called Kivrin from her station. Her voice shook as she spoke. "I found records of something they call the Battle of Stalingrad." The main screen filled with images that made the alien officers step backward. Human soldiers fought other humans in a destroyed city for months. They battled for every building, every room, every piece of ground. When their weapons ran out, they used knives. When their knives broke, they used rocks. "How long did this battle last?" asked Mordin, his purple eyes wide with shock. 5 months, sir. Over 1 million humans died, but neither side would surrender. Veltar watched human soldiers crawling through sewers to attack enemies from below. He saw them jumping between burning buildings to surprise their opponents. These tactics showed a level of determination that the Nexari had never encountered. "They fought their own species with this intensity?" he asked quietly. "Yes, sir. And this was just one battle in a war that lasted 6 years. On Earth, General Wu Jin sat in his deep command bunker beneath the Korean mountains. Around him, dozens of officers monitored screens showing military units across the globe. The aliens still controlled the cities, but they had no idea what was happening underground. "Sir, Phase 2 is ready," reported Colonel Min-jae. "All units are in position. We can begin operations within 6 hours. "What about the other nations?" Wu Jin asked. "Everyone is ready, sir. The Americans have moved their mountain divisions. The Europeans have activated their tunnel networks. The Chinese have mobilized their entire Western army." Wu Jin nodded. The aliens thought they were fighting scattered groups of frightened humans. Soon they would learn the truth. Back on the Nexari flagship, more officers had gathered to watch the human war files. Communications Officer Teflin pointed at a news section that had been translated. "Admiral, this shows how humans fight when they cannot win with traditional methods." The screen displayed footage from Vietnam, Afghanistan, and other conflicts where smaller human forces had defeated larger, better-equipped human armies. The tactics were brilliant and ruthless. Humans used the environment as a weapon. They turned their enemies' advantages into weaknesses. "Look at this strategy," Teflin continued. "They call it asymmetric warfare. When facing stronger opponents, they avoid direct battles and attack weak points instead. Veltar felt his confidence crumbling. These are the same tactics they are using against us right now. Yes, sir. They are not hiding because they fear us. They are preparing. The files showed human military schools where officers studied thousands of years of battles. They learned from every victory and every defeat. They practiced fighting opponents who used the same weapons and the same strategies. Sir, said Intelligence Officer Kivrin, her voice barely above a whisper, I found something called nuclear warfare doctrine. The screen showed human weapons that could destroy entire cities with single explosions. But what frightened the aliens most was how humans thought about using these weapons. They had developed complex strategies for nuclear war, including plans to continue fighting even after their cities were destroyed. They planned to fight wars where both sides might be completely destroyed, and they were willing to do it, Kivrin explained. Division Leader Zorake, who had been quiet during the briefing, finally spoke. Sir, we need to evacuate our ground forces immediately. Why? Veltar asked. Because if humans are willing to fight like this against their own species, what will they do to us? As if in answer to his question, alarms began ringing throughout the Nexari ship. Communications from the surface became frantic. Admiral, our scouts report massive human military movement, reported Teflon urgently. Underground facilities we did not know existed are opening. They have hidden weapons, vehicles, and thousands of soldiers. On Earth, Lieutenant Nari intercepted alien communications from her listening post. The alien voices sounded panicked for the first time since the invasion began. Captain, they are calling for reinforcements, she reported to Hygiene. Their ground commanders want to retreat to their ships. Captain Hygiene smiled as she looked at her tactical display. Red dots showed human forces moving into position around every alien landing site. Tank divisions emerged from hidden underground garages. Aircraft rose from concealed airfields built inside mountains. Tell all units to hold position, she ordered. Do not attack yet. Let them see us first. The aliens on the ground watched in horror as human military forces appeared everywhere at once. Tanks rolled out of tunnels they had not known existed. Soldiers emerged from underground bunkers with weapons the aliens had never seen before. Major Taemin finally left his hiding place in Busan. Around him, hundreds of human soldiers appeared from sewers, basements, and hidden tunnels. They carried advanced weapons that had been kept secret during the first weeks of invasion. This is command, came General Wu Jin's voice over the radio. All units, show them what we have been preparing. But do not fire unless they fire first. Admiral Veltar stared at his screens in disbelief. The scattered, frightened humans his forces had been chasing were gone. Instead, massive human armies surrounded every alien position. The humans had not been running away, they had been getting ready. Sir, what are your orders? Asked Mordin. Veltar looked at the human war footage still playing on his screens. These beings had fought wars against themselves for thousands of years, developing tactics and strategies that no other species had ever imagined. Now they were preparing to use all of that knowledge against an alien enemy. For the first time in his military career, Admiral Veltar was truly afraid. Admiral Veltar stared at the screens showing human forces surrounding his soldiers on Earth. Thousands of tanks, aircraft, and troops had appeared as if from nowhere. But what frightened him most was that the humans were not attacking. They were waiting. Sir, incoming transmission from the planet's surface, reported Communications Officer Teflon, his voice shaking. Put it on screen, Veltar ordered. The display showed a human in military uniform sitting at a simple desk. Behind him stood other humans in different uniforms, representing armies from around the world. The man looked calm and spoke in a clear voice. I am Defense Minister Jinho of Earth. We wish to speak with your commander. Veltar stepped forward, his forearms spread in what he hoped looked like a peaceful gesture. I am Admiral Veltar of the Nexari Fleet. You have my attention. We believe there has been a misunderstanding, Jinho said calmly. Our species should not be enemies. Through the ship's sensors, Veltar could see human military units positioned around every alien landing site. The humans could destroy his ground forces completely, but they were choosing not to. This showed a level of military discipline that amazed him. You have the advantage, Veltar admitted. Why do you not attack? Because we have seen enough war, Jinho replied. Our history has taught us that fighting should be the last choice, not the first. On Earth, General Wu Jin stood beside Jinho in the underground command center. Around them, screens showed alien soldiers trapped in human cities, surrounded by overwhelming force. But the general had ordered all human units to hold their fire. Sir, we could end this in hours, whispered Colonel Minjae. Yes, but then we would be no better than invaders ourselves, Wu Jin replied quietly. Back on the Nexari flagship, Veltar consulted with his officers. They had studied the human war records for days. The tactical knowledge these humans possessed was beyond anything in Nexari experience. Admiral, they could have attacked us at any time during these past weeks, said Intelligence Officer Kivrin. Instead, they watched us, learned about us, and prepared defenses. This shows incredible restraint. Or incredible cunning, added Mordin. Both, Veltar said grimly. They fight like warriors but think like diplomats. He turned back to the communication screen where Jinho waited patiently. What terms do you propose? Immediate withdrawal of all military forces. No more attacks on either side. After that, we can discuss cooperation instead of conquest. Captain Hygiene monitored the negotiations from her mountain command post. Around her, human soldiers waited for orders that she hoped would never come. The aliens were technologically superior, but humans had advantages the invaders had not expected. Ma'am, why are we not pressing our advantage? Asked Lieutenant Junicio. Because the goal was never to destroy them, Hygiene explained. It was to make them understand that destroying us would cost too much. Major Taemin received orders to begin withdrawing his forces from attack positions around Busan. The alien soldiers there looked confused as human tanks and troops moved back, leaving clear paths to the alien landing ships. Tiger Team, pull back to Phase 1 positions, he commanded. Let them see we are not threatening them anymore. This gesture impressed Division Leader Zorake, who was commanding the ground forces. He had expected the humans to demand surrender or to attack while they had advantage. Instead, they were showing that they could be trusted. Admiral, the humans are withdrawing their forces, he reported to Veltar. They are giving us space to leave if we choose to. Admiral Veltar made his decision. All ground units return to the ships immediately. Prepare for withdrawal to safe distance. But Jinho had more to say. Admiral Veltar, we would like to make a different proposal. What kind of proposal? Veltar asked suspiciously. An alliance. Our species have different strengths. Together, we might accomplish things that neither could do alone. The idea shocked Veltar. In 47 previous conquests, no species had ever suggested cooperation. They had either surrendered or been destroyed. You would trust us after we attacked you? He asked. You made a mistake based on incomplete information, Jinho replied. But you are willing to stop fighting when you learn the truth. That shows wisdom. Lieutenant Nari translated the alien response for Captain Hygiene. Ma'am, they are agreeing to full military withdrawal. But they also want to discuss the alliance proposal. Good, Hygiene said. War should create understanding, not hatred. 3 weeks later, the first joint human Nexari exploration mission prepared to leave Earth's solar system. Captain Eugene commanded the human crew aboard a ship that used both human and alien technology. Captain, our Nexari partners report ready for departure, announced Engineer Dongmin from his station. Eugene looked at the mixed crew around her. Humans and aliens worked side by side, sharing knowledge that had taken both species thousands of years to develop. Admiral Veltar, now serving as diplomatic liaison, approached Eugene on the bridge. Your people continue to surprise us. Most species we encounter are either too aggressive or too passive for space exploration. What makes us different? Eugene asked. You learned to fight your own species for thousands of years, which made you excellent warriors. But you also learned when not to fight, which made you wise peacekeepers. That combination is very rare. As their ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, both species looked forward to exploring the galaxy together. The Nexari brought advanced technology and knowledge of many worlds. The humans brought tactical expertise and diplomatic wisdom earned through centuries of conflict and resolution. Where are we headed first? Eugene asked. A distant star system where another species has been sending distress signals, Veltar replied. Perhaps they need allies instead of conquerors. Eugene smiled. Then let's show them what cooperation can accomplish. The stars stretched into lines of light as their ship carried both species toward new adventures among the galaxies.